Hello, and welcome to this video presentation about what soil judging is and a little insight into what you do on the collegiate soil judging team. Maybe it will even convince you to look into joining the team yourself. The experience is both educational and exciting and looks great on a resume. Soil judging competitions occur twice a year and give each college a chance to allow their students to show off their skills in soil classification and morphology. The contest is fast paced and forces you to look at the landscape and the soil pit in front of you to try and decide the type of soil as well as how it was formed. I'm going to go through the steps that you would take in a typical soil judging competition. So the profiles that I'm showing in front of you are typically what you would see in a competition. And you would use the 5 soil forming factors, which are climate, time, topography, and biota. So with each of these elements, you're going to look at a scorecard which has information about the profile. So you look at horizonation, both the master and subsurface, the boundary distinctions, the texture, the color, the structure, the moist consistency, redoxomorphic features, hydraulic conductivity, water retention. It goes all the way to the hill slope profile, erosion potential, full-on soil classification, all the way to the grade group, as well as site interpretations having to do with whether or not a septic tank is suitable. So here are some of the common structures you would see: blocky, platy, subangular, blocky, granular, typical in A horizons. When we do color, we use a Munsell color book. These are common across this board. There's also a globe color book, which we don't use at UT, but some universities will use. Here is how you would determine the color of the soil. This is a typical Ultisol soil, so you use the hue, value, and chroma. This is kind of just showing you how broad the spectrum are for soils. So you typically think of like brown or maybe a red clay, but you also have blue, pink, green, tons of colors. So here is one of my teammates who is working on texturing her soil samples. So when you texture, you're actually going to wet the soil and make a ball, which you're going to use your senses, whether it be your hands or maybe the tip of your lips if they're sensitive enough, to try and determine the clay, sand, or silt percent fractions. Here is the samples that we are going to take from each horizon, and we have to texture and color and analyze each horizon individually. Some of the things that we find in these horizons, this is an example of concretions which are formed from manganese. This is one of the mollisols that we actually saw in our most current competition to Manhattan, Kansas, which was a very exciting competition for everyone. So when you're in competition, one of the soil forming factors is topography. So you would use the percent slope, which is measured, as he shows, with a clinometer. With the percent slope, it will help you determine the landscape position or hill slope profile. So whether you're at the top of the hill, you have the summit, so you have less development than you would in a floodplain. Here is an example of a hydric soil, which are formed under more anaerobic conditions. These are good filters, they're good buffers, they're good for retention of stormwater, and they're also really great habitats for certain types of wildlife as well as plants. Typical in these soils are redoxomorphic concentrations, which are a reduced matrix which is formed from iron 2 plus, or ferrous iron. So this iron becomes reduced due to these conditions, and so these redoxomorphic features are what you would use to understand the issues with drainage. With drainage issues, you would have limitations with installation of basements or installations of septic tanks. You wouldn't actually have as many limitations with adding a road to the site. But these are all different aspects that as a soil judger you need to understand and think about. So applying the different soil types, whether it's the topography, whether it's the drainage issues, whether it's the redoxamorphic concentrations or depletions, and putting all of these different aspects together and learning how the profile is formed, what the parent material was, where it came from and how it got there. So say if you had a colluvial soil, you would see the rounded rocks and maybe it's at the bottom of the hill, which is important if you have colluvium since it's transported by gravity. I have learned so much more from soil judging than I ever could have imagined in the classroom, being able to get out there, work one-on-one with professors, and really understanding the importance and the value of our soils. So I encourage all of you guys to look into it if that's something you're interested in, because it's really an amazing opportunity.